Reunions. My boyfriend, we weren't together at the time, took me on a 2-day camping trip to avoid a work party. My kind of man. My wife works late when there are work events, so I have to go home and take care of the dogs. Getting off the bus at the wrong stop and walking because I pressed the stop button too soon and didn't want to tell the driver. First year of college. Did it multiple times. People seem to commonly do this in a deliberate way. The bus drivers are used to it and probably for the most part just ignore such foolery. In 7th grade I would hide in the science lab during lunch and recess time and feed and play with the school pets. I would ask to use the bathroom around 10 minutes into lunch and then come back in the last 2 minutes. They probably thought I had some real bad bowel issues. They were 2 birds, a bunny, and 2 guinea pigs. I would feed them carrots and talk to them. Nobody knew that I was there for half of the year. When one of my teachers finally walked in on me, I thought I was busted. Luckily she was one of the nicer ones and made it my official job to play with and feed the animals. The postman was knocking on my door. So rather than answer it, I decided to army crawl past the door so he wouldn't see me through the frosted glass. Then he pushed open the letterbox and saw me splayed across the floor, hid under a bed while a real estate agent showed a couple around my flat. Couldn't be bothered to go out but can't stand small talk, so decided to lay low. I had a cup of tea, cushions, a Nokia with Snake on it. I was quite happy under there. They were 25 minutes late. I guess I was under the bed for just over an hour. I feared a sneeze. I was in my early 20s. Edit. Wow. This went big. Thanks for the gold. Kind anonymous benefactor. Enjoy your weekends, folks. And be sure to keep your breathing, sneezing and flatulence under control if you try this at home. I once spent a weekend in a hotel because I just wanted to be alone and chill, reading books and watching TV. The people I lived with at the time couldn't spend more than an hour on their own with some sort of social interaction. The roomie I have now is like-minded and we can go days without talking, seeing each other, and it's great. Best friend I ever had. We still never talk sometimes. I went to an empty room and stood in the dark for 45 minutes to avoid a team bonding event. I'm 95% sure I've done that at least 5 times this year. Lived in a loft downtown on the 3rd floor. The amount of times I used the stairs in effort to not being trapped on an elevator with a stranger is too many to count. One time there was a family moving in. I walked all the way around the building to the opposite side's entrance to get into the building. Then they were using the elevators, so I took the stairs. Then they were on my floor moving sheet in. I didn't want it to look like I was trying this hard to avoid them, so I said, "Whoops. Wrong floor," and walked up 2 extra floors and waited 10 minutes before going back down to see if they were gone. What should have taken me 5 minutes took me close to 30 to get in my apartment. That's when I realized I might have a problem. My roommate threw a party at my house and I hid from everyone. There's only one front door and everyone would see me if I left and would want to talk to me. I avoided eating that whole night because I didn't want to walk by the party to get food. My car was trapped between other cars. I ended up jumping out of a 2nd-story window and walking 3 miles to a 7-Eleven. I failed an important test once because I was too scared to ask the teacher for a pencil. I peed on myself in 4th grade because I was too scared to ask. Going through the drive-thru just to park and eat alone in my car. Ugh, yes. I do this a lot. Or even if I have to pick the food up, I will take it to my car and find a spot away from everyone where I can eat in peace. Rather than associate with my nosy aunt when I lived with her, I told her I was going out for a while, moved my car up the street, and sat in it watching Netflix on my phone for a couple hours. Edit. Spelling. When I was 12, a man in a suit I didn't know knocked on the door. I could see him through the front room window, so I hid behind the chair. Looked up to see if he had gone. Made eye contact. Stayed where I was. Wasn't the last time it happened. I'm not as shy and introverted as I used to be. But now I have moods where I do not even want to see a single person until the mood has passed. When I was living in dorms in college, I would stand in my closet or bathroom for hours just so I wouldn't have to see the people talking in my room. I ended up hearing a lot of conversations I shouldn't have heard because nobody ever knew I was there, lol. I wear headphones all the time. Even if they are off, not plugged in. I'm so much more productive at work. People at the gym let me be. And people on the street leave me alone on my walk home. I do that and people still bug me. On the train. People will wave in front of my face to get my attention to usually ask for directions. I was getting a taxi back home and must have mumbled or garbled my destination because it was quite clear he was going to a completely different place. Like, literally as soon as he turned right out of the parking lot instead of left. I literally let the guy drive for 15 minutes in the wrong direction. Eventually just blurting out anywhere here will do and giving him a tenner. And then just walking aimlessly until I found a public transport I recognized and jumped on that. A 10-min cab drive turned into a nearly 2-hour journey home. For those curious and who live in Manchester, UK, I wanted to get a cab from Ashton to Openshaw. And ended up going to Oldham. Getting a tram to the city centre. And getting a train from there back home. I stopped talking for an entire year of school. 5th grade. To be precise. I had a classmate in 8th grade who I didn't realize was actually at school until he'd steal the ball from me playing soccer in pay. Dude was real quiet and didn't say anything unless he absolutely had to. In high school I didn't have a car, so I walked home. I used to just fast walk to try to beat the crowd of people. But I just didn't want to deal with it anymore, so I would stay in the computer lab sometimes and ask my dad to pick me up a few hours later. So once the bell rang to go home, I would just stay in class since I had computers last. The teacher would forget I was in there, not even notice me, and then turn the lights off. Lock the door. Then leave. Honestly, I didn't mind at all. I got to play video games by myself, and one time about an hour and a half later the janitor came in and I guess I scared him. He turned the lights on and literally screamed when he saw me. Dart. Going to cross the street. But then stopping and pretending I don't have to if there's a car approaching so I don't inconvenience them. I do this. But it's because I don't trust people to actually pay attention and stop to avoid running me over. So I always try to leave enough space that they don't need to slow down. I have phone anxiety. I was going to drive 1.5 hours to my college to talk to them in person over the summer instead of just calling to follow up on something. I routinely cross streets or turn down streets that are in the wrong direction of where I'm going to avoid awkward interactions with vehicles as a pedestrian. Please don't stop and give me that it's okay to go wave when there's still traffic barreling down the opposite side of the street and you're the only vehicle trying to be courteous. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but it would be easier for everyone if you just kept driving. Killed my already dead grandma a couple of times to get out of social events. That's pretty extreme. Hey man, you gonna make it to the party? So hey, I can't. I have plans to marry their grandma instead. That's exactly how it goes down. Hahaha. When I was in the military I volunteered for a deployment to get out of going to a wedding. Back when I had roommates I didn't know very well. I'd spend all day in my room without meals to avoid awkward pleasantries. Then I'd get really hungry, but the prospect of explaining why I'd spent all day in my room kept me inside. Then they'd text me and ask if I was okay. And I'd say yep. Just keeping busy with some projects. And they'd ask if I'd eaten anything since they hadn't seen me. And I'd say yep. Trust me. I'd never go without food, then I'd wake up at midnight and steal my own food from the fridge. I went on an entire week-long vacation out of the country by myself. Went sightseeing. Went on tours. Ate out at restaurants. All by myself. It was amazing. I've done this many times. I love going away by myself. I can do everything I want to. On my schedule. It's great. This might get buried. But I was invited to the birthday party of an old high school friend who was part of the popular crowd in those days. I knew it would be a big party full of super outgoing people that I didn't really want to interact with all at once. My solution? Join a music ensemble. Learn 4 different instruments. With rehearsal twice a week for 4 months because the concert date was the same as the party and that would give me a valid and honest excuse to skip. So instead of talking to people, I played close to 50 collective hours of serialist and phase music. Not a bad trade in my books. This thread is making me realize I am not as shy and introverted as I thought. Bravo. Was 5 minutes late to school, so I decided to skip school altogether that day to avoid the awkward class entry. Telling the pizza guy through a cracked door that I didn't order pizza just to avoid talking face to face was my low point. How did you get the pizza? It was not acquired. College. Had to attend an out-of-town conference with my classmates as part of the requirements for a course. My professor had booked a block of rooms at the hotel where the conference was held. And people were going to put 3-4 guys or girls to a room and split the cost. My classmates had a bunch of socializing and bar hopping planned. Which sounds like my idea of a living hell. Also, all of them carpool together in groups. I honestly would have rather walked barefoot across a mile of Legos than to be held hostage in a car for 4 hours with people I barely know. A few people asked if I wanted to carpool with them and what room I was in, and I said oh. Thank you so much. I'm actually staying with a friend in town though. And I'm stoked to see her. I'm going to have to take my own car so I can drive to the conference. I'll catch you guys there. So I wouldn't come off as a weirdo. But I actually reserved a room at another hotel way across town. Attended the bare minimum of the conference. And enjoyed as many coffee shops, art museums, downtown shopping trips, and nature trails as I could. I used my then 3-year-old as a human shield on the couch when my husband brought company over before a trip. I just hid behind her. 2 years later. One of those friends is now considered family to us and I love that bro dearly. Edit. Oh wow. My first +1k comment. I love y'all. Took my breakfast into a wheelchair stall at a remote toilet in a corner of the floor that I worked. So I wouldn't have to talk to my co-workers. Ordered food to be delivered. But my housemates and SOs were downstairs. I told the delivery person just to drop the food on the porch and I'd get it. I waited around 5 hours. Starving and eating a bag of marshmallows in my room until everyone went to bed to fetch my food. I work at a hotel and one of the worst things about it are the really chatty guests. They'll just stand at my desk and jibber jabber. Completely failing to take the hint. Even saying excuse me. I have a lot of work to do will typically only get them to say oh don't let me interrupt, but they'll never walk away. I've learned to call the hotel phone from my cell phone. I answer the phony call and tell the guest excuse me. This is important. Then I slip into the back and watch them on the video monitors until they duck off. I was at a dorm party in college. I became overwhelmed and hid under my GF's bed. They looked for me and everything. Once I was able to rejoin the party, strolled back in and acted like I had stepped out. I cringed thinking about it. Every single day I order Starbucks on the app no matter how inside the store I am. A lot of days there isn't even a line, but that doesn't stop me. My brother and I will order it on the app and then stand outside and wait a few minutes until it's ready. You are not alone. Not proud of this. But I spent the last 10 years building an investment portfolio that I could live on and retire early. The reason I wanted so badly to retire early was so that I didn't have to spend time with banalities like small talk and pointless meetings with my co-workers. So, in a nutshell, I went frugal, saved and invested my money, and stopped working, all just to avoid talking to Bob from accounting. When I'm stuck at an event or party I don't want to be at, but can't immediately leave, I tend to spend a lot of time in the bathroom browsing Reddit. Choose to have my parcels delivered to a collection point that I have to drive to rather than risking having to speak to my neighbors. Saw a co-worker from my new job at the bus station. Couldn't bear the idea of the awkward chit chat, so I hid round the corner, figuring I'd get the next bus as I knew I had enough time. The next bus didn't turn up and I was late for work. My girlfriend's roommate came back one night with a bunch of their friends that I never met before. I'm not particularly skilled socially, nor do I care to be, but I can get through introducing myself and making a good first impression to 1 or 2 people at once, but 10 people is too many. So my girlfriend goes to talk to all of them and wants me to meet them. So I say I'll be out soon, I have a bit of a headache. So I think for a while of how I'm gonna get through this, but I realize that it's been so long that if I go out now it'll be super awkward. Then I hear someone coming, so I hide in the closet. Now I really can't go out there, so I stay in the closet for a while. Then I come out and get in the bed and pretend to be sleeping. When my girlfriend comes back in, she wakes me up and asks where I was. So I pull a George Costanza and lie and say that I snuck out and went to the store to get some aspirin and then snuck back in and fell asleep. She wants to know why I didn't go through the front door and say hi to everyone on my way out. So I say that I didn't want to disturb their fun, so I went out the side door. I'm willing to pay an extra $300 in rent if it means I get the whole place to myself. Called in sick on the day of a big company all hands meet and greet. I had pneumonia for a solid week and didn't go to the hospital because I didn't want to talk to people on the phone to make an appointment. I was sure I'd get over it. Couple days in, my mom calls and says I sound terrible, so she sends a cousin over. He walks into my house with me sweating like crazy, with the heat cranked up, the window near me wide open, northern Midwest January, so it's ducking cold, in my boxers. He brings me some Gatorade and cold medicine. Choke all that down. Next day his mom shows up and takes me to the hospital. Hey, you've had pneumonia. You shouldn't wait like this next time. Oops. 2 months ago I didn't want to stay in my apartment while 2 workmen were replacing some windows. So I just made up an excuse that I couldn't stay and asked the concierge to keep an eye on them. The thing is that I didn't have anywhere to go. So the day before I transformed this little attic storage room I have, which is barely the size of a single mattress, in like a cozy fort with food and blankets. I stayed there all afternoon watching movies, not trying to make any noise cause of the wooden floors. I dropped a college course when I heard 2 people whisper my name behind me. I dropped a college course because someone sat in my seat. I saw, turned around and dropped it 10 minutes after.